Boost or bust. Communicating to advance job quality policies based on research by the Topos Partnership. Efforts to lift families' economic circumstances through policies such as increasing the minimum wage, requiring paid sick time, and other steps to improve the quality of jobs have had several recent successes. This is an opportune moment to make significant gains for working families if we can understand and promote the changing attitudes that lead to wins. Wins won't come easily. Often policies are won or lost long before a specific campaign is engaged. They are often won by the underlying assumptions and understandings that people bring to the debate in the first place. To see what we mean, think of another issue area, like government spending. The common sense idea that we have to live within our means shapes and limits thinking about state budgets, deficits, public employees, and taxation, and ends up setting priorities for government policy. Similarly, when it comes to jobs, there are fundamental core beliefs people hold that set the foundation for campaigns and legislative battles. Topos researched the core beliefs that make it hard for the public to understand the policy solutions that will work and help the cause. Topos spent a year conducting this research, talking with hundreds of people around the country to unearth the hidden obstacles to public support on job quality policies and to develop a core organizing idea that could overcome these obstacles. Topos conducted anthropological research in coffee shops, parks, people's homes and places of work, virtual community forums where people debated ideas, and talkback tests where we exposed individual participants to a single idea to determine what sticks and what changes people's thinking about job policies. Here's what we learned from months of research. While we face many obstacles in this conversation, there are some fundamental ideas in public discourse that clearly prevent progress. First, the public conversation on jobs is often focused primarily on what business needs. Average Americans, whatever their occupation or political orientation, often look at issues from the perspective of an owner trying to maintain a profitable business. When thinking in this way, they make a number of assumptions that undermine our policy goals. For example, from a business perspective, employee compensation is a cost, a burden to business. Any increase in wages or expansion of work standards, such as sick leave, creates an additional strain on business which might harm profitability and even lead to cutbacks or failure. And if businesses are the source of jobs, then it follows that an employer's need should trump an employee's need, because if the employer can't afford to hire, there are no jobs. Finally, business executives, as the most knowledgeable about what business needs, are taken as the authority on this topic. The result is that even people who are sympathetic to workers' interests often feel there is no choice but to give business what they want. This frame, advanced by the opposition and readily embraced by most Americans, is a powerful common sense idea and a powerful obstacle. Other patterns of thinking are equally entrenched and unhelpful to promoting a more progressive conversation. For example, one very common pattern is to focus on what individuals need. When looking at these issues through the perspective of an individual, people think about the ways in which each of us has to navigate the work world, and they don't consider ways to change the work world. The lens on the individual obscures the broader systemic issues and the collective solutions. Furthermore, when focused on the individual, it is quite logical for people to insist that not all jobs can be great jobs. Everyone starts out at the entry level and has to move up in the work world. It is inevitable that there will be a hierarchy of jobs. The apparent solution in this way of thinking is for each individual to get the education to be able to advance. While progressives, of course, support increased opportunities for education, we also want to lift all jobs and reject the notion that some jobs need to pay poverty-level compensation. Finally, though people recognize that economic conditions matter, a whole range of anti-poor stereotypes continue to persist. It is relatively easy to trigger the idea that if a person is unsuccessful in the work world, it is due to bad choices or a character flaw. It isn't easy to change the conversation. Our research revealed that a variety of different approaches fail to create the fundamental shift in public understanding that will benefit our policies. For example, many Americans agree that too many companies have gotten greedy. However, they don't see greed as a problem that can be fixed by policies. Similarly, people can agree that many employers are not treating workers fairly, while also believing that employers can't afford to do much more. Business realities trump individual needs. Focusing on how people are struggling or on how new policies will lift people out of poverty can achieve widespread agreement and still not increase support for policy change. Instead, people can easily conclude that we just have to wait for the economy to get better, or people have to get the education they need to advance on their own. Problematically, what happens in the workplace is too easily seen as a private matter, a dynamic we refer to as the employer-employee bubble. In this way of thinking, it is up to the employer and the employee to negotiate compensation and work standards. If the employee doesn't like it, he or she can leave and get a new job. It is a private business, and the rest of us have no right or responsibility to interfere. To empower people to act, we have to figure out how to break this private work bubble and give people the sense that decisions about compensation are everybody's business. Ultimately, our challenge is that even if people see inequality, discrimination, or a lack of fairness, their support for change can be undermined by the core beliefs that businesses can't afford to pay more, or that it is up to workers to negotiate, leave for something better, or get the education they need to advance. To take this conversation to the next level and create momentum for change, we need a rationale that overcomes these hurdles. Our research finds that we can succeed by having a conversation that is focused neither on what businesses need nor on what individuals need, but on what we and our economy need. To create a new common sense on the issue, we need to connect the decisions businesses make with the consequences for all of us, families, communities, and our economy. The most effective organizing idea for this new conversation is that we simply can't sustain our economy or our communities with jobs that compensate inadequately. The decisions businesses make have consequences for everyone's quality of life. More specifically, we need to advance the simple idea that if earnings aren't enough for people to afford the basics, our economy and community stall. A variety of points help to support and flesh out this core idea. Affording the basics means spending on food, doctor visits, or necessary repairs, which clarifies for people exactly how little some jobs are paying. The solution is to lift the wage and benefits floor, a simple and vivid image that helps people quickly grasp the policy solution. Explaining what prevents better compensation is also helpful. The idea that profitable corporations are using their power and influence to hold down compensation helps people see the current state of affairs as intentional, not unavoidable. When appropriate, it can also be helpful to explain to people that the minimum wage is so low that many people with full-time jobs qualify for food stamps. This comparison powerfully illustrates what it really means to be working and poor. Instead of blaming the worker, people turn their anger toward the employer and the policy that allows it to happen. It can help to draw a distinction between economy-boosting versus economy-busting jobs, clear and memorable terms that help people focus on the core issue. Finally, including a role for citizens in the conversation reinforces intentionality, that we have the power to create the economy and quality of life we want. Here's just one example of language that helps shift people's perspectives. Economists sometimes talk about the need for economy-boosting jobs. These are jobs where people make enough money to maintain the basic spending levels that keep the economy and communities going. If people can't spend on basics like food, repairs, and so on, the economy stalls. And here's an example that brings in even more of the points. Our government has a specific role when it comes to the job market, to maintain a wage and benefits floor. Powerful corporations actively use their influence to hold down wages and benefits. But if jobs don't compensate enough to maintain basic spending levels on things like food, getting things repaired, and so on, the economy stalls. Wages are so low that millions of full-time workers are below the poverty line and qualify for food stamps. Policies to raise the wage and benefits floor and restore basic spending will boost the economy. For example, to regain our prosperity, people can insist on increasing the minimum wage, or increasing job security by requiring that every job include paid sick days. See for yourself how people talked about the issue before and after reading ideas like this.
Well, you only could do so much because we do live in a free country, and the government can only do so much. It is up to the employer decisions as far as making, setting the pay structure, and it's up to the employee if they want to work for that company. If they don't like it, they just go to another company. If we raise the minimum wage levels, it's going to restore basic spending. It's definitely going to put more money back into the economy, because if people are making more money, especially if they're getting more of the benefits, people are going to have extra cash to spend. I just believe it'll put more money into the local communities.
Pay rate should be based on the quality of the work. People aren't making enough money to afford the basics like food, basic repairs. Then the economy suffers because of it, which means companies are suffering too. So everybody suffers from this. You just got to boost the wages. Like, minimum wage is not what it should be. People aren't making the money that they need to be making.
I think when the government starts telling employers what they have to pay their employees, we become a socialist country. So I think the government should stay out of it. So I kind of have to retract my other statement there. If an employer is able to pay people more money, then people have more money to spend, and that's going to grow every business. Because when people don't have the money to spend, like, for an example, Walgreens can't stay in business because I can't afford to buy my daughter cough syrup, which goes down the line. So that now Johnson & Johnson, they're not producing the cough syrup anymore, so it's kind of like a rotating thing. Before, I would say it was none of the government's business, but now after doing the survey, maybe the government needs to be a little stricter on how much they pay and how much a company has to, give out for insurance.
I feel like they should have complete control to be able to say how much they want to pay their employees based on the actual job they're doing. We need to create jobs that are economy boosting, meaning that people are able to make enough to generate more income back into the economy by spending on food and basic housing and necessities. And that when we don't do that, when individuals are getting paid less than what they can afford to live on in society, then we actually bust the economy. It's important that we make money to be able to sustain our own economy. The more money we make, the more we spend. So
we need minimum standards, but I think that's really up to the company. They want to have these economy boosting jobs, up the standards so that people can afford to pay their bills and not be on food stamps. And I'm just thinking about my kids. I have 4 sons right now, all working on jobs that are the economy busting jobs because they're working for lower amounts.
I'm a business owner, I have my own business, but the thing is, I don't want nobody telling me, okay, well, you got to pay this amount, because I got to look at my bottom line. That's true. You need the more money that people have in their pockets to spend, they'll spend it. The average person will. I know that for myself, So if you're putting back in the economy is going to go up. It's going to boost up, period.
Why does this approach have such power? First, it's simple. It clarifies the economic problem. Instead of wallowing in an overwhelming array of economic worries, including unemployment, a roller coaster stock market, deficits, and so on, it offers a simple picture of an economic dynamic we can understand and do something about. More broadly, it provides a new explanation for how the economy really works. The economy we care about is the one that affects people's wallets, and it is people's ability to afford to support their families that drives the economy. This idea ties the fate of low-wage workers to the fate of us all. When they hear that a higher floor lifts families, as well as communities and our economy, people can readily see how policies like increasing the minimum wage and guaranteeing paid sick time will improve the quality of life and economic circumstances for us all. Finally, this conversation is a very values-based conversation. It taps into beliefs about how work should be valued and how people with jobs should be able to support themselves and their families. And it reinforces interdependence. We sink or swim together. We need every ally to rally around these basic ideas and proactively push them into public discourse. Culture change doesn't happen by accident. It happens when a catalyst sparks new thinking, which advocates can encourage. This shift will take time, training, and hard work, but smart advocates are already communicating great examples. Here's a great example of simply explaining the cause and effect of increasing the minimum wage. Our research shows that this is far more effective than simply saying work should pay a fair wage. A business person can be a very compelling authority on the role of increased wages in boosting demand at small businesses. This is a far more effective approach than having a business person talk about how higher wages can help retain good employees, which people assume a smart business person would do anyway. Making the economic case for paid sick time, not just the public health case, can bolster support. This approach even gave an editorial board a reason to flip its view on the issue. Even the president is picking up these themes, as demonstrated by this year's State of the Union address. And smart advocates are picking up on these themes and carrying them forward in a way that allows progressives to be on the offense for a change, insisting that these policies will boost our economy, instead of the defensive stance we so often have on these issues that it won't hurt business. In conclusion, as a basic approach for organizing our communications, the idea that we can't sustain our communities and the economy on low-wage jobs is a simple, common-sense explanation of why job quality policies matter to us all. Most important, it is a big idea that accomplishes a number of important goals. It brings new supporters to the cause with a helpful new perspective that competes with the idea that businesses can't afford to do more. For those who are already sympathetic, it provides practical as well as humanitarian reasons to make the case. Finally, it offers everyone a clear and memorable way to summarize why the issue matters. With a topic as complex as jobs and the economy, this is critical. For more information, contact Topos Partnership. Email team@topospartnership.com.